He owned nothing, not even his own body. Yet he became freer than the emperor who enslaved him. Around 50 AD in ancient Rome, a man lived in chains. Epictetus was a slave. His master could beat him, sell him, or kill him at any moment. He had zero control over his body, his time, or his circumstances. Everything external was owned by someone else. But Epictetus discovered something that changed everything. That while his master owned his body, nobody could own his mind. His thoughts were his judgments were his responses were his, and that was enough. Because if you control your mind, nothing else can truly control you. Here's what most people don't understand about ownership. We think we own all kinds of things. Our house, our car, our money, our body, our reputation, our relationships. We build our entire sense of security on these things. But Epictetus looked around and realized something terrifying and liberating at the same time. You don't actually own any of that. It can all be taken away in a second. Without your permission, without warning. You think you own your house. Economic collapse, fire, government seizure, gone. You think you own your body. Disease, accident, aging, all outside your control. You think you own your reputation. One scandal, one lie, one misunderstanding, destroyed. You think you own your relationships. People change, people leave, people die. You can't control any of it. So if you base your happiness, your peace, your sense of self on things you don't actually control, you're building on sand. One wave and everything crumbles, and you're left with nothing. That's what most people do. They invest everything in externals, then wonder why they feel so powerless, so anxious, so afraid all the time. Epictetus saw this pattern everywhere in Rome. Rich people terrified of losing their wealth, powerful people desperate to maintain their position, healthy people paranoid about getting sick, everyone clinging to things they couldn't actually hold on to, living in constant fear of loss. And that fear was its own kind of slavery. Worse than his, in some ways, because they didn't even realize they were trapped. So Epictetus asked a radical question. What if you only invested in what you actually own? What if you stopped caring about things you can't control and focused everything on what you can? What would be left? The answer: your mind, your thoughts, your judgments, your responses. That's it. That's all you truly own. And according to Epictetus, that's all you need. He divided everything into two categories: things in your control and things not in your control. And he said, the secret to freedom is simple. Focus all your energy on the first category. Let go of the second. Completely. What's in your control? How you think about situations. How you interpret events. What you believe. What you value. How you respond. Your effort. Your character. Your choices in the present moment. That's your domain. Your kingdom. Nobody can take that from you unless you give it away. What's not in your control? Everything else. What happens to you? What other people do? What other people think? Your body's health, your past, your future, the weather, the economy, everything external. You can influence some of it, but you can't control it. And trying to control the uncontrollable is what makes you miserable. Epictetus had this perfect example. Imagine you're an archer. You can control your stance, your aim, your technique, your focus, your release. All of that is yours. But once the arrow leaves your bow, it's not yours anymore. Wind can blow it. The target can move. A bird can fly into it. You don't control the outcome, only your effort. Most people obsess over the outcome. Did the arrow hit? Did I succeed? Did I get what I wanted? And when the outcome isn't what they hoped, they suffer. They think they failed. But Epictetus would say you didn't fail if you did your part correctly. You controlled what you could control. The rest was never yours to begin with. This changes everything about how you approach life. Stop judging yourself by outcomes you don't control. Judge yourself by the effort and intention you bring. Did you do your best with what was in your control? Then you succeeded, regardless of the result. But here's where it gets really practical. Epictetus said most of your suffering comes from treating things outside your control as if they're inside your control. You think you should be able to control what people think of you. You can't. You think you should be able to prevent bad things from happening. You can't. You think you should be able to make people behave the way you want. You can't. And every time you try to control the uncontrollable, you suffer. Because you're fighting reality. You're demanding that the universe work differently than it does. And the universe doesn't care about your demands. So what's the solution? Accept that external things aren't yours. Stop trying to own what you can't control. Invest everything in your mind instead. In how you think, how you respond, how you interpret. Because that's the only place where you have real power. Let me give you a real example from Epictetus's life. His master was twisting his leg, probably as punishment. Epictetus calmly said, "If you keep doing that, you'll break it." The master kept going. The leg broke. And Epictetus just said, "See, I told you, no rage, no begging, no emotional breakdown." Why? Because he accepted that his body wasn't truly his to control. His master owned it. But his response? That was his. And he chose calm acceptance over suffering. That's not being passive. That's being free. Free from the false belief that you can control external things. Free to focus your energy where it actually matters. On your mind, on your character, on your responses. Now let's talk about what this means for you. Because you're not a slave. But you're probably trapped by the same illusion. The illusion that you control more than you actually do. You're stressed about what people think of you. That's not in your control. You can influence it, but you can't control it. So why are you basing your peace on it? You're anxious about the future. That's not in your control. You can prepare, but you can't control what happens. So why are you suffering over it? You're angry that someone treated you badly. You can't control how they act, only how you respond. So why are you giving them power over your emotional state? See the pattern. Most of your suffering comes from trying to control things that aren't yours to control, and ignoring the one thing that is, your mind. Epictetus would tell you to audit your worries. Write down everything you're stressed about. Then go through the list and mark which things are actually in your control. Most of them aren't. You're worrying about outcomes, other people's behavior, circumstances, the past, the future. None of that is yours. Then look at what is in your control. How you're showing up today. What effort you're bringing. What you're choosing to focus on. What you're believing about the situation. That's your domain. That's where your power lives. So put your energy there. Here's another key insight from Epictetus. He said your mind can't be harmed by external things, only by its own judgments about those things. A situation isn't good or bad. Your judgment makes it so. An event isn't devastating. Your interpretation makes it devastating. Someone insults you. The words are just sound waves. They can't hurt your mind, but if you judge them as devastating, if you tell yourself this means something terrible about you, then you suffer. Not from the words, from your judgment. You lose money. The loss is just a change in numbers. it can't hurt your mind. But if you judge it as catastrophic, if you make it mean you're worthless or doomed, then you suffer. Not from the loss, from your judgment. This is your power. You can't always control what happens, but you can always control what you make it mean. And what you make it mean determines whether you suffer or not. Most people never realize they have this power. They think their emotions just happen to them. Something bad occurs and they automatically feel terrible. But Epictetus is showing you there's a gap. Between the event and your emotional response is a judgment, and that judgment is yours to control. When something bad happens, pause. Notice what you're telling yourself about it. What am I making this mean? Is that the only possible interpretation? Could I see this differently? That's you exercising ownership of your mind. That's you using your only real power. Epictetus also taught that trying to control external things is like being a prisoner who thinks rattling his chains will set him free. The chains aren't the problem. Your belief that you need them removed to be free is the problem. You're already free. You just haven't realized it yet. Because freedom isn't about circumstances. It's about your mind's relationship to circumstances. You can be physically imprisoned and mentally free, or physically free and mentally imprisoned. Most people are the second one. They have all kinds of external freedom, but they're trapped by their thoughts. Trapped by worrying about things they can't control. Trapped by needing external things to be a certain way. Trapped by giving their peace away to circumstances and other people. Real freedom comes when you realize that your mind is yours, completely yours, and nothing external can take that away unless you let it. You can lose everything else and still be free, because freedom lives in your ability to choose your response, to choose your interpretation, to choose what you make things mean. Epictetus went from slave to philosopher. His body was never free until late in his life, but his mind was free from the start. Once he realized nobody could own it but him, and that freedom is available to you right now. Not when your circumstances change, not when you get what you want, not when problems go away. Right now, stop trying to control what you can't. Stop basing your peace on external things. Stop giving your power away to circumstances and people who don't even know they have it. Take back ownership of the only thing that's truly yours, your mind. That's your kingdom. That's your power. That's your freedom. Everything else is borrowed, temporary, ultimately out of your hands. But your thoughts, those are yours. Use them wisely. Subscribe for more ancient freedom.